G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I am of course recapping all the action from FNCS so far after day one, and man was there action. We have yet again another pro team getting disqualified, getting banned from Fortnite from playing in these tournaments due to what they've said on social media and what they've said on Twitter, and what this means for pros going forward and where the line might be that they can't cross when it comes to taking your frustration to social media. Also, we had some pretty big server issues. I don't want to focus on this too much, but man, the servers in NA East Game 1 and Game 2 saw some really big issues. But I mean, there was 93 players alive at second zone, like just some of the most stacked games we've ever seen in any format. We had Hen, Janice, and Chapix just defying all logic, everything that people said, or most people like myself. I'll admit I was wrong on this one, clutching up a second place by a single point, being contested 6 of 6 games and getting far south zones. We also have Centered Edgy Commandment dominating NA East with just ridiculous consistency. There's a lot to cover. Let me just jump into it. I'm going to break down EU and NA East game by game. Let's talk about all the big moments and everything that happened. Kicking off with game 1 of NA East, there was nothing too crazy. All the teams getting contested we knew about. We knew Lupian's team was going up against Casca's team at Retail Row. NA East played out really slow and really safe. And that's what led to this. I'm just going to show you 2 clips from Mackwood and Bucke and why they went down in game number 1, because, yeah, this is something else.
Out of zone. On me. I broke it down. I stopped the res. I hit him 1 HP on me.
I can't just do that. I just can't move. I killed one.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah,
I'm dead. You got this.
I killed 2.
Nice.
Killed another.
Nice, bro.
I really don't know what's happening.
Get the...
I'm dead? Okay. Oh, yep.
Yeah, there's just nothing that you can do there. Like, that is genuinely the definition of unplayable. I don't want to harp on this too much. You guys know me. I like to keep my videos positive. That is obviously a very good reason why Kanata, Mackwood, and Bucke didn't perform in game 1, but there was some big teams that popped off in game 1 and still had a huge performance. We had Gabe, Tahi, and Sprite come out with the victory royale. They late took high ground as a duo, and they managed to beat the low ground kings of Centered Edgy Commandment. Remember, this now means that at this point, Gabe, Tahi, and Sprite have had uncontested sweaty 2 times this FNCS. The reboot round, victory royale. This game, victory royale. That's 100% win rate out of the high ground team there, but keep in mind, Centered Edgy Commandment are second place with a huge performance because their consistency today was on another level. Game 1 was a pretty south zone, so you know, Commandment, Centered Edgy coming out in second. That's a good performance for them. Gabe, Tahi, and Sprite rotating out from Sweaty. Huge performance from them. But game number 2, this is what started the story. You managed to see Centered Edgy Commandment come out with the low ground victory royale over Knifer, Sticks, and Chronic Jays, who came in second from the low ground. But this was a Sweaty sand zone. They've now got a victory royale on a north zone from a south team. And everyone talks about this. EU, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. For some reason, the zone favoring in finals seems to go south. So seeing the teams that are south do well in those zones is important, but it's about what can they do when the zone goes north, and Centered Edgy Commandment pick up a victory royale in game 2. That's a second place and a first place to kick off the games of the finals. Coming into game 3, despite no top 2 placements, Deyy, Mero and Reverse were playing really well. They had a 6 elimination 5th in game 1 and a 12 elimination 3rd in game 2. So they were racking up the big elimination. So even though in a lot of these clips today, I'm not going to be talking too much about Deyy, Mero and Reverse, because I'm talking about who makes it to the very end and who gets the victory royales, just remember, Deyy, Mero and Reverse are dropping serious frags. They actually set a record today for the most amount of eliminations on any team in the first 4 rounds in NA East FNCS history. So they were really dropping the big games. Keep that in mind. Despite me not talking about them, they were very much up there. Been talking a lot about the low ground, but game 3 is when high ground really got to come out. Avery, Saf, and Stretch had already taken high ground in game 1, but they didn't have a lot of material, they didn't have a lot of loot, and they went down early on the rotating zones. They kind of went a bit too aggressive. Game 2, they were poised to win it all. They had high ground at half, and zone went opposite. It went towards Knifer's team that ended up coming second. They got the zone, and unfortunately, Avery, Saf, and Stretch had to give it up. But game number 3, this is when Avery, Saf, and Stretch got to finally finally get their high ground. They got to finally hold on to it, and they had the big game they've been building up for a while now. This was a 7 elimination first. Last game, they got a 5 elim 5th as well, so they weren't doing too bad at this point, but this is going to be the story of Avery, Saf, and Stretch. They are heavily, aggressively pushing height every single game. In the end, it did come down to them going toe-to-toe with Megga, Dubs, and Rocaine. Remember, at this point, they have a 6 elimination 3rd, game 1. They got a 2 elimination 17th, game 2, unfortunately, but then a 6 elimination 2nd. So in the first 3 games, Dubs, Megga, and Rocaine, a team that a lot of people were starting to whisper about Dubs and Megga being washed. They need to split up. They've played together for too long. They're just not good anymore. They have 2 top 3 finishes in 3 games. They're looking really hot at this point. Game 4, we had a new challenger appear. We had Nosh, Nut, and Chucky get the victory royale on high ground. Remember, during their qualifying week, they won 5 of 6 games. This team, if they make it to endgame, they can get wins. And I'm happy they proved that even with all the other high ground teams in the lobby. Because when they had that qualifying week, a lot of people took it away from them being like, oh, Kanata wasn't there, Jack wasn't there, Degen wasn't there. But they still did it here in the finals. Unfortunately, that was by far their best game of the day. Even with that win, they didn't end up too high on the leaderboard, but the team that came second was the team on low ground. Centered Edgy Commandment, now getting a 7 elimination 2nd place. Unfortunately, their game 3 was their worst game of the day. They only got a 3 elim 18th going down to Storm Surge. Centered even talked about on Twitter that he couldn't get Storm Surge because he was so nervous, he was shaking, but I just don't know how you could be nervous when this team is playing this ridiculously consistently. 2nd, 1st, 18th, 2nd. That is insane. And again, I haven't showed a clip of them yet because they're falling just outside of that top 2, but Deyy, Mero and Reverse right now are popping off. 6 elimination 5th, 12 elimination 3rd, 9 elimination 6th, and 11 elimination 4th. Getting that many eliminations and that consistent placements is insane. 6th place being your worst placement right now when you have almost double-digit elims every game. Deyy, Mero and Reverse are really playing like Deyy, Mero and Reverse. Reverse put a target on his back with that video calling out so many other teams being like, we're just so much better than these guys. They are proving it right now. Deyy, Mero and Reverse are backing up the smack talk. Game 5. This was the most notable game for me in FNCS so far for NA East. This was the high ground versus low ground. You had Stretch, Saf, and Avery take the high ground early, hold it the whole end game, play it phenomenally, play it so well, but they had Centered, Edgy Commandment on the low ground. Coming into the end, Centered went down. It was Edgy Commandment in a 2v3 against Saf, Stretch, and Avery on high ground. This was literally the story we'd all been building up. High ground versus low ground. And somehow Commandment and Edgy managed to pull it off with just ridiculous clutch shots. Commandment took down Saf, and then Edgy with the side jump shot onto Stretch was just so beautiful. I'm just gonna run this end game for a little bit so you can watch it, because genuinely, I think this is one of the best games we've ever seen in NA East.
We don't get to see the Cinderella 3-on-3 that we were looking for, but at least they get another 2nd place now minimal here coming into this last round. Aussie, it is all but said and done, right? 3-on-2. Can Commandment pull off one of those ridiculous clutch plays? We've seen him hit so many shots in the past like this. Look at this. They're setting up for the heals. They're not risking anything right now.
This is going to be monumental to overcome. A 2nd place is fantastic. We don't want to cast it as if it's done, but this is going to be tough. Again, Stretch respects these opponents more than I would say almost any other team in NA East. He knows if you go down, you could go down. They managed to take Sap out of this. It is not over yet. This is a 2v2. Sap has fallen. We have Commandment and Edgy going up against Stretch and Avery. Can they do it here? They have the harpoon. They're jumping in. If you let them in your box, they will punish you. But they're blocking them out. They're holding them out. Remember, Stretch is on the high ground. This could be the first kill off game. They take down another team. They take down another player. If you drop onto low, you will be punished. They are the absolute kings of low. But Stretch on the high ground. He finds the flopper. They've chopped the flopper. This could be enough. He had to go out early. They're holding the heals. Stretch might lose this. I don't know how many meds he has. The spray's coming out. Commandment goes down, but he doesn't get the siphon. This is such an important engagement. And Edgy jumps out to the side. NRG on Liquid. Edgy wins it from the low ground. I said it. They don't need to win the crown. They already have the mantle. They have the title, but they just proved to you as the viewers at home why they are the undisputed low ground kings. Unfortunately, this was the point where Deyy, Mero and Reverse came a little bit unstuck. They only got a 1 elimination 16th. They got stuck in an early Storm Surge fight that they had a lot of players on top of them. And unfortunately, with that amount of pressure, they couldn't have that straight 3v3. They've been dominating and they went down. This was their worst game. And this gave Censored Edgy a commandment to a chance to jump ahead and take away the lead coming into the final game of the day. Game 6 was so massive for the leaderboard. We had a few teams be very quiet up until this point. Degen, Ages, and Skittles had not been quiet. They were kind of around that top 5 to top 10 for the entire time, but we've had a lot of teams be quiet. I am now up to Game 6 of NA East recap, and I have not talked about Jack, Slacks, and Acorn. They were struggling. They were down there right now. They started to pick up pace. They took some early and mid-game fights that went their way, but unfortunately, coming into the end game, they fell down, but so did all of the top 4 teams. You managed to see every top 4 team at this point go down. Commandment, Censored Edgy were out, Reverse 2K, Deyy, and Mero were out, Jamper, Threats, and Rise were out, and then you managed to see Saf, Stretch, and Avery fall as well here. So this was a chance for teams like Gabe, Tahi, and Sprite to come back, Megga, Dubs, Rocaine, but it was Degen, Ages, and Skittles that finally had their big game. They managed to jump up and get the Game 6 victory royale. They had a huge performance, and they did it with just a super dominant high ground. So this meant that the leaderboard that was starting to spread out with Censored Edgy Commandment running away with it, Censored Edgy Commandment unfortunately had their second worst game of the day. They went down with 2 eliminations 11th, and that meant that everyone got a chance to jump back up and have their name in the ring. To close out the day, we did see Censored Edgy Commandment finish up in first on 201 points, 6 games played, 2 victory hours. Deyy, Mero and Reverse in second on 193, 6 games, 0 victory hours, but that's because those big eliminations, like I said, are carrying them through. Jamper, Threats, and Rise in third on 162, Gabe, Tahi, Sprite on 155, Saf, Stretch, Avery 153, Megga, Dubs, Rocaine 153, Degen, Ages, Skittles 142, Jack, Slacks, Acorn 127, and then no disrespect to Dom, Dusky, and Spade. Obviously, we have Niddle, Casca, Smack, Nosh. The other big teams are there. But right now, with Commandment, Censored Edgy on 201, that is double the points of anyone from 12th place and down. It is going to be a hard time to come back. For teams like Mackwood, Kanata, and Bucke that are way down on the leaderboard. Obviously, you saw that lag in game 1. I loved Mackwood's approach on Twitter. He just said, look, games haven't gone our way today. We've got a lot of south zones, but we're keying way too hard. We're going to have the comeback of a lifetime on day 2, and I hope they do, but they're in 19th place. It's looking pretty rough for a lot of teams, but that battle between first and second, I mean, Commandment, Censored Edgy have come second 2 FNCSs in a row. They came second to Reverse 2K, Deyy, and Mero 2 FNCSs ago who won it out, so I think they're sick of coming second. This could be their chance to run away with it, but Deyy, Mero, and Reverse are looking really good. Now we move on to EU, and EU had some of the craziest zones I've ever seen. NA East had some south zone favoring, and so did EU, but it wasn't just that it went south. It would pull max to max to max to drop off a mountain, and that's how game 1 went. But before we get to that, we got to start telling the story of Kinzel's team versus Freemock's team. Kinzel said that he was dropping Orchard on Twitter, but it looks like it was a bit of a bait so that he could drop on Freemock, Default, and Wolfie uncontested at Holly Hedges. The bait didn't work because Freemock killed them off spawn and started off with a huge first game, getting a 15 kill fourth. 15 kill fourth. The Russian team was just on an absolute rampage with eliminations, but we're going to get to what stopped that rampage in a second because it was an ugly finish for them. But when you talk about teams that rampage of eliminations, we saw game 1 go to Noah Riley, Rezon, and Vidil. They managed to pick up the 12 elimination victory royale, proving, like I was saying in my video, I doubted them last FNCS. I wasn't going to doubt them again this FNCS. They're dropping a Boney Burbs. They don't have as much experience there as what they do Sweaty Sands, but coming out with a game 1 win with a terrible zone, confidence was really high for them. We had Hen, Janice, and Chapix though also make it to endgame and get a 9 elimination 3rd place. Now remember, Hen, Janice, and Chapix are getting contested. That is a big statement. From Craggy to Camp Cod, contested 3rd place. Like, just seriously built different. Game number 2, again, before we get to the end game, kicked off with the spawn fight again at Holly Hedges, Kinzel dropping on Freemock, and this time Kinzel's team coming out on top. Kinzel's team didn't go on to have a particularly insane game, but you'll know why I'm talking about this spawn fight in a second, because it's very important. But this is where we saw the rise of Refsguard and Dredder and MrSavage having their uncontested steamy stacks for the first time. They played low ground so well, and they went on to win the game with a perfectly timed medkit by Savage, and we didn't didn't see too many heal offs. We didn't see too many medkit plays across the regions. And if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be 200 IQ Savage. But also Kiriachi's team having a huge game with getting an 8-kill fourth. And we saw Loot Boy, Queasy, Trulex, and Jerky come out with a 6 elimination second. So the big names were in this one, but this is where we start to see the rise of MrSavage's team. Game 3, and this is what the spawn fight has been boiling down to. We have Idrop pretty much 1v3ing Freemox's team using chonka tires. Like, I'm not kidding. This is not an arena game. This is FNCS finals. Let me show you the clip of exactly what this was.
Get him in face. He's the best.
They're not just doing this to like a terrible on-spawn fighting team. Freemox has surged in popularity recently for how insane his mechanics are, and Idrop pulling off potentially the clip of the FNCS so far, in my opinion, that's just not getting enough recognition. They end up getting a 12-kill third after that, so they, again, going on to prove why they're taking the spawn fight, knowing they can have big games if they make it out of Holy Hedges. This is when we finally saw Forziar, Tayson, and Nate show up, though. They got a 4 elimination second, which has been their biggest game so far, but it all went to Joe, Stompy Right, and Loot Boy Shadow getting a 9 elimination win as well. They held high ground. They did really, really well. And again, there's still consistent placements though. There's going to be a lot of teams. I'm not talking about as much here. And remember, all going on in the background of this, you have Hen, Janice, and Chapix winning every single spawn fight so far. They have been contested every game, 3 games in a row with Craggy Cliffs, and they've won all of them. Remember, Savage's team still there in 6th place with 3 eliminations, so they're being very consistent right now. Game 4 was the first game we didn't see Idrop's team and Freemox's team fight at Holy Hedges. They split Holy Hedges. They both walked out with pretty shambles loot. It wasn't the best. I mean, they had to kind of do what they could, but both teams are making it out. They've both had big performances when they win. Unfortunately, neither of them being able to do big things when they don't fight. And we did have Hen, Janice, and Chapix winning Craggy for the 4th time in a row, going on to get an 11 elimination first. Just genuinely proving everything is a storyline I've built up and a lot of people have been talking about. If you are that good and you're contested, you can still win, but you have to be that good. You have to be next level good, and that's what Hen, Janice, and Chapix are right now. We had Nex's team come in 2nd. We managed to have Stereos' team in 3rd. Andalix, Sweezy, and Snazy, who've been very quiet so far, getting a 7 elimination 4th. And this was the first time we didn't see too many of the top teams up there other than Hen, Janice, and Chapix. They have a huge surge up on the leaderboard, but Refscard and Dreader and Savage still inside top 10 again, playing super consistent, as well as Queasy's trio. As I'm talking about those trios though, game 5, this was the interesting one now. This is the first game Hen, Janice, and Chapix managed to die on spawn, and it's the first game Savage's team dies before rotating zones as well, not getting really any points on the board, but it was the game that had Queasy, Trulex, and Jerky jump up with an 8 elimination victory out, a huge, huge game for them, and then Forziar, Tayson, and Nate coming in 2nd on 7 eliminations, huge jump up for them, and then Kiriachi, who's being consistent with a 3rd place 1 kill. Kiriachi's team is still very much in this right now. Uncontested Slurpee is looking really good for them, but this is the big game Tayson's team needed and Queasy's team to jump up on the leaderboard. Now, I know what you're thinking. Aussie, you've been hyping up this Holy Hedges spawn fight for so long now. Why? They've both had big games, but they're not really up there on the leaderboard. Well, that's because Game 6 kicked off with 32 teams. We managed to have Default get banned. He managed to not only get DQ'd from the tournament, but actually banned from competitive Fortnite for a tweet that he made calling out his opponents. Again, I'm not going to show it. They've deleted the tweet. Again, I don't like the witch hunting stuff. This is a very similar situation to the situation Paper was in, where again, you can't take to Twitter to vent your frustrations. Epic has made this abundantly clear. They have a sportsmanship code, and if you break it, it's the same as cheating in game. You will be banned, and this always divides people. It's outside of the game. Why does it matter? But similarly to the situation with Paper, I was quite lenient with Paper. I'll admit that. Paper's a friend of mine. Maybe I was a bit more biased. I do want to see these pros held to a higher standard. Paper seemed very apologetic, but he has shown tendencies to let his temper get the best of him in the past, and so is Default. A lot of people took to Twitter to say, look, as much as I want to feel bad for Default in this situation, you can't say what he said, and he's done this in the past, and people have warned him that he's going to get punished for this, and he still keeps doing it. So now with this, that means Freemock cannot continue playing, and unfortunately, Freemock took to Twitter and was just absolutely devastated. It was pretty gut-wrenching, and it was pretty heartbreaking to read. The guy was clearly in a bad way, and I'm sure he still is now, but it's hard, man. It's the last thing you want to see. I'm a bit of a softie. I know that some of you guys are going to say, good, you can't behave like that. And I get that as well. I get both sides of things. I just feel bad for the players who just have their, potentially not their career, but at least this FNCS thrown away over just a snap moment of frustration and rage. And again, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to excuse what they did. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard. You are playing for millions of dollars and you're representing big companies and a big game. You just have to be a little bit better, but it sucks to see either way. Would also like to include Default did make a tweet longer to explain himself and to apologize for everything that happened. This was received with mixed responses. Some people saying he's just apologizing because he wants to get unbanned and that's the point of the consequences. A lot of people saying it was a good apology as well. And again, I like the fact that he's stepping up and admitting his mistake, but like a lot of you guys said with the situation with Paper, if there's no consequences, a lot of these younger guys won't learn. So I'm the big softie. I'm gonna stay out of it again because I always just feel for these guys. But the point stands that Fortnite Competitive did not unban Default. It looks like his team will not be playing for the rest of FNCS. This does now mean the Kinzel's team has uncontested Holy Hedges for Game 6 and presumably the 6 games tomorrow as well. And this is when Hen, Janice, and Chapix, after going down in Game 5, showing, can gods bleed? Can you actually take them out? They come back with a 10 elimination victory, having a huge jump up again on the leaderboard, being contested 6 games of 6 and still managing to be up there on the leaderboard. We had Fast Rocky, Pizza 4K, and Ardit come in second place on 10 eliminations, and this is when we started to see the rise of Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD. They pull off the 4 elimination third. Remember, it was last FNCS. They came into day 2 down pretty bad on the leaderboard and had a huge surge up. They can do it again, and this is the last game they finally needed. Endelix's team was up there in 4th. You had Forziar, Tathan, and Nate in 5th, but again, we got to break down the overall leaderboard because, man, EU is shaping up to be just as exciting as NA East. After all those performances and the insane consistency, despite only having 1 victory royale, we have Refsguard and Dredder and MrSavage in first on 166 points. They got a 5 elim 6th, an 11 elim win, 3 elim 6th, 2 elim 9th, 3 elim 16th, and a 3 elim 10th. But they're only one singular point above Hen, Janice, and Chapix, getting contested 6 games of 6 out of Craggy. But when they make it away, they have a huge performance. 3rd place, 9 eliminations, 2 elims 25th, 6 elim 22nd, 11 elim win, 0 elim 32nd when they lost on spawn, and then a 10 elim win. But they're getting contested 6 games again tomorrow. Are they just that good? Are they so different that they can win an FNCS being contested 12 games out of 12? I don't know. I didn't pick them in my top 5. I didn't think they could. I'm very happily wrong, but I'm also a huge fan of getting to see Refsguard and Dredder and Savage finally have their big moments when they're uncontested at Steamy. Remember, again, I'll show you the picture. The zones went very, very far south today on EU. It happened on NA East a little bit too, but more so on EU. If some of those zones start going north, it's only looking better, but it's better for both first and second. They're both far north teams out of Steamy, out of Craggy. We then have Red Rush, Mappy, and Exteriors' team. And again, I didn't talk about them at all. Huge performance from them. 3rd place, 157. Forziar, Tathan, and Nate in 4th on 155. Queasy, Trulex, and Juriki on 153. Kiriachi, Stormy Ride, and Toos on 136. Fast Rocky on 134. I'm waiting for the leaderboard to spread out so I can stop doing this, but Flick, Anas, Thomas HD, 130. That is 166 down to only 138th place. There's only 36 points in this. EU is so much closer than NA East right now. All right, guys, I've just casted 6 games of NA East. I instantly recorded this video so I can now go live on my Twitch channel for NA West. I hope you see this, you know, in the future, the past. I know I'm uploading this a little bit later. I hope you guys were there for it, but I need to end this video. I didn't plan on making this of a long video, but man, I'm just so hyped with FNCS. I hope you enjoyed this style, breaking it all down in case you missed it, or if you saw it and you still like hearing my thoughts on it. If you did, please chuck a like on it. This video just took me ages. If you haven't already, please comment down below your thoughts on any of the teams or topics I've talked about. Please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.